Hey everybody, Niels here, Coconut Cockpit. In tonight's video I wanted to show off strobe units, which I think make close air support during nighttime missions a whole lot more interesting. So the scenario is you are overhead, you get a radio call from friendlies on the ground, and they're in contact with enemy troops, and they require close air support. Because it's pitch black outside, it's difficult for them to give you a visual talk on as to where they are in relationship to landmarks or something like that. So the easiest way for them is to turn on their infrared strobes. Those will show up very, very clearly in your night vision goggles. And once you have their location, you can drop a mark point and then get a talk on. For example, from our location, 300 meters to the north is where the enemy is. So let's have a look at what that looks like in the game. So we have the mission header open here. And it's a very simple setup right now. So we're in the plane here, and we know that the friendlies are our waypoint 2, but we're not going to use the waypoints. So we know they're off to our left-hand side here. Once we're in the air, we're going to tell them to turn on their strobes, and then we can see if we can spot them through our night vision goggles. So let's start the game here. Alright, so here we are in the cockpit of the Viper. So we know that our friendlies are in this area roughly, but it's impossible to know where they are, right? And even if we turn on our night vision goggles and we zoom in, it's finding a needle it's like finding a needle in a haystack. It's pretty much impossible. But it's much easier if we tell them to turn on their strobes. So once we execute this, you can see the strobe starts flashing, and it's very easy for us to see them now, know exactly where they are, drop down a mark point, and then get a talk on to where the enemy is. So as far as the code goes, it's pretty simple. So I made a class called Strobe Units, and these are units that are able to turn on their strobes. So right now what I'm doing is I'm finding a group called the Marines group. For every unit in that group, I'm telling them you are now a strobe unit. Please start your strobe and give me one burst, and then that's when they start flashing their strobes. So that's what we see right here. We can tell them to have 3 bursts. So when we then start that, you can see it bursts 3 times, then it goes dark for a little bit, and then it continues. So there's a bunch of guys down here, but because they're all flashing their strobes at the same time, you just basically get this one hotspot, which is easy to see but isn't really super realistic. So to make that a little bit more interesting, what I did was just add some randomness to it. So in this second code block, I'm doing the same thing. So I'm finding the Marines group, I'm going to get the units, then for every unit, I'm just going to give it a 75% chance whether or not that unit is going to turn off their strobe, going to turn on their strobe. And then once they turn on their strobe, there's a random number of seconds between 0.1 and 1.5 when they're going to turn it on, and then it's also going to give a random burst between 1 and 5, and that looks a bit more convincing. So when you look at it, you get this continuous flicker, and it's not always in the same spot and the same unit, or does it look like it's just one big unit? And now everybody here is kind of clumped together, but if you can imagine them being spread out a little bit more, and then them all flashing at the same time, that would be a bit robotic, not as interesting. So doing it like this is makes it a bit more realistic, a bit more natural, in my opinion. Alright, so I reset the mission. The groups are spawned in a random location, so I don't know where they are. And let's see if we can spot our good guys. Now I know that the bad guys will be to the south of the good guys, but that's all I know. So let's go back here and turn on their strobes. So I know they're in the general. Oh, there they are. See how easy that was to see them? So I can see them over there. So what I would do now would be, let's drop down a mark point on their location. So I get the TGP on, and then from the TGP I can start hunting for the bad guys. So there they are. So let's turn in. And let's drop down a mark point. Let's readjust that a little bit. So that should be good. Let's go to air to ground mode. Get the DGB on. Waypoint 26. So let's see if we can spot them, and here they are. They are good guys. So the bad thing about the strobe units is that you can only see them through the TGP. The strobes don't actually show up on the infrared on the targeting point. So that's a bit of a bummer. But I haven't found a way around it yet. Anyway, so I know that from this location the bad guys are to the south. So let's reposition a bit and see if we can find them. And this is also something you will be doing in the campaign from time to time. A few of the missions are you just being on close air support, where you don't know exactly what's going to happen in the mission. So this is a very realistic scenario. Alright, so where are we? Let's come around a bit more. Still on autopilot. So to the south is where they are. Wow, and this is actually harder than I thought. That's just a normal car. So south would be somewhere over here. But I don't really know how far south they are. Let's cheat just a little bit. So they are about a mile south, in between some trees. Good. So here are the good guys. So south would be in this direction. Hello. These look like bad guys. Alright, so we found the bad guys. Let's also drop a mark point on these guys. Make that our active SP. And let's engage. Turning in. So of course, in the actual campaign, you'll get a little bit more information as to where to go look for the bad guys. So you don't have to cheat on the F10 map, nor will you be able to cheat on the F10 map, because I think I'm just going to turn that all off, or at least make it an option to turn that off. Anyway, we are in range. Target selected. Drop 1, 2 times GBU 38 away. Let's come off the target and watch the fireworks. And if we ever lose track of our guys, all we have to do is turn on our night vision goggles, and there they are. I'm also thinking about making it so the good guys could potentially like throw an infrared strobe out there, to maybe like throw it near the bad guys, and then you can just engage the infrared strobe, something like that. It's something they did in, if you've seen Black Hawk Down, at the very end there. I think the little bird pilot asks them to throw down or throw out a infrared strobe, and I thought that was a pretty cool scene. So I might do something similar. Mm. 6 more seconds. There we go. I always get a little bit worried with shade amps because the timer runs out, and if they don't hit straight away, I'm always worried that something went wrong, but it always takes a little bit. Takes some time. Alright, so there we go. Target destroyed. And yeah, mission successful. So yeah, something like this I think is going to be pretty damn cool for nighttime close air support. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.